So is today's generation really angrier? Why does every conversation somehow ends with yaar system hi
The
kharab
Prime
hai?
Minister responded yesterday, so like what can I even expect from them anymore?
Millions of young Indians are feeling restless. Perhaps the problem isn't just individual, perhaps it's national. History tells us that almost every generation that changed the world looked restless before it looked successful. Have you noticed something? Everyone seems angry these days. The student is angry, the employee is angry, the entrepreneur is angry, the taxpayer is angry, the social media influencer is angry. Even the person posting spread positivity somehow sounds angry. Open X, people are fighting. Open Instagram, people are comparing. Open LinkedIn, someone of your age has become a CEO before the breakfast. And if that's still not enough, your parents remind you that Sharmaji's son has already bought a house. Sometimes it feels like being young in India has become a full-time competition. Think about this. Today's generation is probably the most educated in India's history, the most connected, the most informed, the most ambitious. You can learn artificial intelligence from your bedroom, apply for a university abroad in minutes, start a business with just a laptop, talk to someone sitting on the other side of the world. Opportunities have never been greater. Then why does it feel like frustration has never been greater either? Why is anxiety or burnout or outrage becoming the everyday words? Why does every conversation somehow ends with yaar system hi kharab hai? But this episode is not about blaming the young people, and it's certainly not about saying that one generation is better than the another. The real question is much bigger. Why does the generation with the maximum opportunities also seem to carry the maximum pressure? Is it unemployment, social media, politics, rising expectations, or is something much deeper changing inside the Indian society? Because if millions of young Indians are feeling restless, perhaps the problem isn't just individual, perhaps it's national. So, why are young Indians so angry? To answer that, we first need to understand how one generation was asked to dream bigger than any generation before it, and why, despite those dreams, so many feel left behind. Let's go back just 30 years. If you had asked an Indian parent in the early 1990s, what do you want your child to become? The answers were fairly predictable. Doctor, engineer, government officer, a secure job, a stable life. That was success. Then came 1991. India opened its economy. Suddenly, the world opened its doors. Global companies arrived. The internet arrived. Startups emerged. Artificial intelligence, influencers, creators, coders, designers, data scientists. Careers that didn't even exist a generation ago suddenly became a real possibility. For the first time in Indian history, young people weren't told to dream small. They were told you can become anything. It sounded liberating, but there was one particular problem. When possibilities become infinite, so do expectations. Sociologist Ulrich Beck called this as the risk society. Modern life gives us more freedom than ever before, but it also forces us to make far more choices, and every choice comes with the fear of making the wrong one. Should I prepare for UPSC? Should I join a startup? Should I go abroad? Should I do an MBA? Should I become a YouTuber? Sometimes choosing a career in India feels harder than actually working in one. Then came another revolution, the smartphone. Earlier, success was local. Today, success is global. Political scientist Benedict Anderson famously wrote about imagined communities, how people feel connected to millions they will never meet in their life. Social media has created something even stranger, an imagined competition. Every morning, your phone reminds you that somewhere, someone younger than you has raised millions of dollars for a startup. Someone has cracked the UPSC examination. Someone has bought a luxury Defender. Someone has traveled to Europe. someone has become a fitness influencer. And before you have even had your morning tea, you already feel late in life. Psychologist Jonathan Haidt, in The Anxious Generation, argues that smartphones and social media have fundamentally changed how young people experience the world. Every opinion is judged instantly. Every success is measured publicly. Every failure feels permanent because the internet never forgets. But technology alone isn't the whole story. India is one of the youngest countries in the world. Every year, millions of educated young people enter the job market with enormous aspirations. The economy has created remarkable opportunities, but not always at the same speed as expectations have grown. This particular gap, that is, between what young Indians dream of and what they believe is possible, is where the frustration quietly begins. So perhaps the young Indians are not angry because they have fewer opportunities. They are angry because they have more dreams than ever before, and no guarantee that those dreams will come true. And when the ambition meets with the uncertainty, the result is often not hope, it's anxiety and sometimes anger. Here is something strange. Have you ever noticed that bad news spreads much faster than the good news? One negative tweet, one controversial statement, one viral video, and suddenly the entire country is arguing. Meanwhile, thousands of people quietly helping others rarely become the headlines, because outrage travels faster than optimism, and social media knows it. Legal scholar Cass Sunstein explains that online platforms often create echo chambers. In simple words, we slowly start seeing only those opinions that are similar to our own. And when we keep hearing only one side, the other side doesn't just seem wrong, it starts looking like the enemy. That's why today, a cricket match becomes a political debate, a movie becomes an ideological battle, even a food vlog somehow ends in a fight in the comments section. Sometimes it feels like Indians don't scroll social media anymore, we enter it like a battlefield. Psychologist Jonathan Haidt makes another fascinating observation. Human beings are naturally wired to notice danger more than comfort. Thousands of years ago, this helped our ancestors survive. Today, the same instinct makes us click on the headlines that make us angry, shocked, or afraid. And social media algorithms quickly learn one thing: the more emotional you become, the longer you stay online. Which means anger has quietly become one of the internet's most valuable products. But here is the important question. If social media is the problem, why doesn't every young person become equally angry? Because technology is only a part of the story. Political scientist Ashutosh Varshney has long argued that in diverse societies like India, the identities, for instance, the religion, the caste, the language, the region, can become deeply emotional during times of political competition. Now add social media to that mix, to this particular framework. Every issue becomes personal. Every disagreement becomes an identity debate. And every identity debate becomes a reason to pick a side. Sometimes we are no longer trying to understand each other. We are just trying to win a particular argument. Then there is another silent change. American political scientist Robert Putnam, famous for his book Bowling Alone, argued that modern societies are slowly losing the spaces where people simply interact as neighbors and communities. Think about it. Earlier, people spent evenings talking to neighbors. Today, we are connected to thousands of people online. Yet, many young people admit they have never felt more lonely, more connected, less connected. It sounds impossible, yet somehow both are true. So perhaps young Indians aren't becoming angry because they're weaker. They are becoming overwhelmed by constant comparison, constant competition, constant opinions, constant notification. In a world where everyone is expected to react instantly, silence almost feels illegal. But here is the irony. The loudest generation in Indian history may also be the generation that's searching the hardest to simply be heard. And that brings us to the biggest question of all. Is this anger destroying the India's future, or could it become the force that transforms it? So, are young Indians really becoming angrier? Perhaps. But maybe that's the wrong question. History tells us that almost every generation that changed the world looked restless before it looked successful. The freedom fighters of the 1940s were restless. The young entrepreneurs of 1990s were restless. The scientists who built India's space program refused to accept limitations. Restlessness by itself is not weakness. It is often the beginning of change. The real question is, what do we do with this particular restlessness? Economist and Nobel laureate Amartya Sen often argued that development is not just about increasing the income, it's about expanding people's freedom to choose the life they value. Perhaps that's exactly what many young Indians are demanding today. Not just higher salaries, but fair opportunities, better education, transparent recruitment, safer cities, cleaner politics, a future where hard work still matters. Those are not unreasonable expectations. In many ways, they are the expectations of confident generation. But confidence alone is not enough. Every generation also has a choice to become creators or merely critics. It is easy to point out what's broken. Social media rewards that every single day. Building something is much harder. Building a company, building a school, building better public institutions, building trust, building communities. History rarely remembers the loudest people. It remembers the people who built something that outlived them. Here is something worth thinking about. India today is the youngest major democracy in the world. Every month, millions of young Indians enter colleges, workplaces, startups, laboratories, and public service. This is not just a demographic statistics. It is one of the greatest opportunities every nation has ever had. The same generation that spends hours arguing online will one day become India's teachers, judges, scientists, journalists, entrepreneurs, civil servants, members of parliament. In other words, the future that young Indians complain about today will eventually be shaped by the young Indians themselves. So let's return to the question with which we began. Why are young Indians so angry? Maybe because they have been told that anything is possible. Yet every day they collide with inequality, competition, and uncertainty. Maybe because they are connected to the entire world, yet often feel more alone than ever before. Maybe because they care deeply about their future, but don't always feel that they have control over it. And perhaps that's why this generation deserves something more than criticism. It deserves understanding. Because anger by itself has never changed history. Direction has. If India's youth can turn frustration into innovation, comparison into confidence, and outrage into action, then this generation will not be remembered as the angriest generation. It will be remembered as the generation that transformed India. Perhaps the future of India will not be decided by how loudly the young people complain, but by how courageously they choose to create. This is Bharat and Beyond. I'll see you in the next episode. Take care of yourself.